next panel up. And I'm going to bring up Brother Reverend Babington Johnson, CEO of Stair Step Initiative, who's going to invite our two panelists, Senate President Bobby Joe Champion, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. All right. Give them a round of applause.
Hello, hello.
What's up, brothers?
Amen. Amen.
How the brothers doing?
Right now. Okay. So, thank you, David. Thank you, Jeff, for the invitation for this opportunity of conversation. And I want to start by saying sometimes we look at things and we don't know what we're seeing. As you're looking at these two gentlemen before you, I'm not sure that you even understand what you're looking at. This is, of course, the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, Keith Ellison. And this is the President of the Minnesota State Senate, Bobby Joe Champion. Both of them are our neighbors. Both of them live in the north side of Minneapolis. One was born here. But here's what I want you to understand as you look at them. Two things. First, understand they're you. Look at them closely and then recognize they're you. Then I want you to understand that in the state of Minnesota, in the political sphere, you're looking at two of the top three most powerful men in the state of Minnesota. I don't even think you get it. There's the governor. He's the most powerful political figure. Now, we have the Attorney General here who is on the cabinet, and he's also a member of what they call the Executive Council. That's made up of 5 people: the governor, the lieutenant governor, Secretary of State, the state auditor, and the Attorney General. They decide a lot of things that you don't even know come on the table. That council, it's a formal group. But if the governor and the lieutenant governor, for some reason, ended up both being sick or something bad happened, do you know who would be the governor of the state of Minnesota? Nope. Bobby Joe Champion. As the president of the Minnesota State Senate, he is third in line to be governor of the state if anything happened. You're looking at 2 of the 3 most powerful men in the state of Minnesota. They're black and they live on the north side. And they are you. So we really wanted this discussion to be about what we call the journey, because they are you. And all of us, let me just check in. Were both of you infants at some point?
I was.
You was?
I'm
Bobby
pretty sure that.
No, Keith came out as an adult. I want you to know. Yes.
Okay. They are you. They had a beginning, middle, going forward, just like you. That's an important part of this. So let me just then ask them a couple of questions. North Minneapolis and Detroit are starting points in your life stories. But if you were writing your autobiography, what would you say about the beginning of your journey?
Well, the beginning of both of our journeys start before either one of us were born. And those journeys begin in Africa. And then they go to the American South. In my case, Louisiana and Georgia. Bobby's people's from Texas, Hooks, Texas.
You remember that too.
Brother, I know you. and so let's keep that in mind. We need to think of each other as, it's not individual dots on a line, but as a point of a river flowing that includes not only your ancestors, but your descendants, both. I mean, think of that way. Indispensable parts in my journey, quite honestly, had to do with when my mom was from Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, and her father, my grandfather, Frank Martinez, would organize black voters And they would threaten not to blow up the house so much that my mom had to go to a boarding school in Lafayette, Louisiana, called Holy Rosary. They burned a cross in front of the house, and my grandfather had to put tractor fuel in his car because the white business owners boycotted him. And that experience, definitely shaped my mom. My mom, when she went to Xavier in New Orleans, she would grab the whites only signs, which were movable on the bus, and she would take them. And she said, I must have had about 20 of them in my dorm room by the time I got out of Xavier. And so she raised us like that. And I'll just say this one last thing. You all remember Pulse nightclub when there was a massive shooting in Orlando, Florida. My mom calls me and she says, John Lewis is doing a sit-in on the House floor to protest this. And I want to know why you're not down there. Because I looked on the TV and I didn't see you. And I closed my meeting and I went down there. So that's a little bit about the shaping. I will tell you this one other thing about Bobby. Neither the governor or me can get one penny to run our offices without Bobby. And it's sure nice to know that my friend of decades lives 3 blocks away from me. I can just say, Bob, we really need some money for X, Y, and Z. And Bob tries to do it. We're not just black men. We are brothers working together. It does not help anyone. It does not help anyone. Look, if you're just some black star at the top of some mountain all on your own, we stand back and say, isn't he awesome? But it doesn't do us any good. It doesn't help. You ascending us to leadership should do you some good.
Amen. Amen.
Well, let me say, first of all, thank you to Alfred Babington Johnson and my brother Keith. You heard me chuckle when he remembered that my mom is from Hooks, Texas, and my dad is from Hope, Arkansas.
That's right.
And what's significant about that is when we think in terms of journeys, everything that he said about Africa and coming through in the South is significant. And what's also significant for me is that I was born and raised in North Minneapolis.
Sorry.
And that doesn't mean the exclusion of anyone else, but let me tell you the significance of that for me. Because growing up, if you lived in North Minneapolis, there are others who were outside of North Minneapolis that didn't think you were anything. Mm-hmm. They didn't think you could accomplish anything. They didn't think you were about anything. So I grew up on 7th and Penn.
All right.
My mom and dad came from the South because they migrated from the South to the North. And every year, what was really important to me, and I didn't realize this until later, my mom and dad made us go south every year. Mm-hmm. We spent at least 2 weeks in the South. They called it homecoming.
That's right.
Well, all my other cousins and others would come, and we couldn't just get there and act like we were on vacation. We had work that we had to do while we were there because we were a member of a family.
That's right.
And what was also significant about that is I didn't realize until later that we always left to go south at night. We never left during the day. And it didn't really, and my parents would only say to us things like this, because my mom and dad and never went to college. But every year when we would go south, my dad always had this saying, and we would stand in back of him and repeat it so he couldn't see us. So imagine someone standing in front of you and you would repeat exactly what they're going to say while they were saying it and laughing. But my dad would say, here's the journey I had to take in order to try to get to the schoolhouse. And that the other kids on the bus would throw stuff at us, but here's the journey we had to take in order to get to the schoolhouse. And the significance of that was my dad would always tell us, now you from the North, don't go down to the South acting like you Mr. Slickster.
Yeah.
And that message was always resounded. And it would talk about history, where they had to live, what they could do and could not do, and the advantages that we had at that moment. So that was really important to me to really get that and to understand that, and then to even understand being from North Minneapolis. See, I didn't see myself the way other people saw me from the outside. Because if you talk to a North Sider right now today, they think they're the best thing since sliced bread. They always say, North Side.
North Side.
Because we were always taught that we were from greatness. Mm-hmm. And even if other people couldn't see it, it was important for you to know it.
Amen.
And so no matter what you said you could not do, they always told you that you could, because even Mahmoud El-Kati was over teaching us history, and we had things to reflect upon. And that was significant for me.
That's right.
Being the first person to ever even go to college, because my family didn't go to college. And for me to be on that college campus and to realize that I could not go back home and not have this degree. Mm-hmm. And even knowing I had to take 3 buses to school and 3 buses back home because I didn't have enough money to stay on campus.
See.
But guess what my parents expected of me and what other people in my community expected of me? We expect you to go do your very best over there.
That's right. That's right.
And that was clear. And that was important for me, right? Is because every step along the way, the very people who were ostracized and said couldn't be nothing ended up doing great things.
Amen.
And I just want you to know that that's a part of that history. And then I met this guy when he was in law school and I was in law school. And so it's things and that connection, so I could understand more about Detroit, right? Because some of us, believe it or not, others had the benefit of going north. But there are a lot of people who didn't even leave North Minneapolis because they didn't even know that there was a St. Paul.
Amen.
Some people in North Minneapolis back in the day didn't even know that there was a 44th or even a Lowry, because you were confined to a certain area.
Amen.
And so that's just a part of that journey.
Amen.
Sorry about that.
So now these gentlemen look pretty cleaned up right now, but I just want you to know that President of the Senate, Bobby Joe Champion, used to be the sporter of an extraordinary jerry curl. And
Extraordinary.
It was a Billy D. Williams jerry curl on top of that. Be really clear if you're going to talk about it, right? I had it slick and all the way back. And then I love it when somebody say, you kind of look like Michael Jackson. I'd be like, where, what you saying? Right.
and it was the drum major, essentially, of the, what's the name of the
Children of Light and the Leo Johnson
and
drum
the Leo
corps.
Johnson
Let's be
drum
clear.
corps, you know, strolling through the streets. And before he went to law school and before he was a representative, and while he was in law school, I even believe, Attorney General Ellison used to wear a bandana wrapped around his head as he
Only for protests.
as he led protests through the city. So, I mean, these gentlemen have been on a journey to their purpose. And as you reflect on your life, what's your earliest or most significant memory of being connected to something bigger than yourself?
You know, I told you a little bit about the people who raised me and things like that, but I just remember one time with my uncle selling newspapers in Detroit, downtown, and there was different newspapers. The Detroit News, there was Detroit Free Press, there was the Michigan Chronicle, there were different newspapers. And we were standing there selling newspapers, and you know, I'm like 9 or 10, I don't really know. People usually point to the paper, I'd hand it to him, take the money, give it to my uncle. And so one time a man said, give me a paper, and I grabbed the paper and I handed it to him, and he looked at it and said, I don't want this damn black paper. And I was like, looks like black and white to me. What? And it was the Michigan Chronicle. It was an African-American paper. It was basically the equivalent of Insight News. Al McFarlane's right here. And that was the first time in my life that it ever registered to me that for some people, being associated with blackness was not good. My parents sheltered me. Not that they didn't, I mean, look, I had to do chores like every other kid. But in terms of that nasty racism up in your face, we had black pictures of people around the house. We had people who spoke well of us, and we had people who we admired. So walking into that larger world, all these people in downtown Detroit walking back and forth fast, most of them white, most of them in suits. And I got the impression that I was in a place where important people were. And this important person made that comment, and my uncle had to debrief with me for about a good hour and a half. Another pivotal experience, if I may to share it, my grandfather, who really could not read and write in the English language, and I didn't know that, because I was certain he's the smartest person in the world. He was a factory worker, came up from Sardis, Georgia, and was working at Ford's Motor Company, and he actually bought a couple of duplexes, and he would have me and my brother cut the grass on them. And he used to always walk around with his glasses like this. And he said, hey, make out a receipt for them, and them. And I would make out these receipts all summer long. And one day I go home, and I'm rummaging through the kitchen looking for something to eat. And my mom says, how you doing, honey? I'm like, what are you looking for? And, oh, I'm looking for something to eat. I said, how come Grandpa always has us write out the receipts? I asked him why he asked us that. And he said, I can't find my glasses, boy, just write out the receipt. And so I just wrote out the receipt. But my mom goes, and my mother's a very sweet, kind woman. She goes, don't you dare embarrass your grandfather. Like, embarrass Grandpa? What are you talking about? So he didn't get to go to school like you did. They didn't let black people go to school. They made him be in the field. And so you be grateful that you got to go. And I was shocked that perhaps my grandfather didn't have a command of the written word. And it taught me a lesson that is never forgotten. Even when I was a public defender, Bob, I would always say to some of my older clients, would you like me to read this for you? Because I never wanted to put them in a position where they, you know what I mean? And if they say, no, I got it, then fine. But some of them would say, yeah, go ahead. And I didn't judge them, but I just knew that this country had taken something and denied something as basic as literacy to not our great-great-great-great-great-grandparents, but to our grandparents. The people sitting in this very room, I bet you half of y'all grandparents never got a chance to go past the second or third grade. Think about that.
Again, Mr. President, as you reflect on your life, what's your earliest, most significant memory or sense of connection to something bigger than yourself?
That's a really big question. And, because I believe that every experience that you do experience is a part of building you to who you are today, not just one thing, right? And so, as I mentioned, when we would go south, it was really significant to me because my Aunt Honey or my Uncle Fred or my grandmother, who was in Hope, who lived in a shotgun house, right? Or they had a property and there were things that you had to do.
Y'all know what a shotgun house is? Okay, good.
A shotgun house,
How many
right?
lived in one? No.
But they were always talking about the importance of family and progress, even if they were in their situation. They were always talking about progress. And so when you compound that with Mahmoud El-Kati, I first met Mahmoud in North Minneapolis when he was coming to the Way, because even if we were going to have a recreational time, the spike in the Way would make them shut down the recreation and tell you that you had to go to African American history class. African history class. You had to. It wasn't even a choice. If you wanted to play pool, if you wanted to go run track, you had to go to African class. And Mahmoud, who was a professor, came from there to North Minneapolis in order to talk about it. So what was significant about that is because then I began to understand our history and how we were part of that history. And they would always say to us that it was important for you, it's important for you to make a contribution to our upward progress. And the other example to me was Stevie Wonder was pushing for Martin Luther King's birthday to be a national holiday even before it became Vogue and other people were accepting it. The Way had us get on a bus, because we would do all sorts of protests all the time. We were always protesting something, right? But they had us get on the bus and ride from North Minneapolis to Washington, D.C. so we could be a part of that protest, because we needed to understand that it was important for Martin Luther King's birthday to be a holiday. And it was at that time when Stevie Wonder was talking about the world's orchestra and we have to do our part and play our part. And I ran around the back of the Capitol when I thought that Stevie Wonder would be getting in the car. And I ran around to the back of the Capitol and saw him. And most people who know me know that I had a stuttering problem at the time. So it was difficult for me to get out because I was shocked that he was actually there. And he said, yes. He says, yes. I said, Mr. Wonder. I said, Stevie Wonder. Oh, it's so great to see you. He says, I'm glad that you're here. He said, but you have to understand that you have to make a contribution too. And that was a profound moment for me, because he made it very clear that we all had to make a contribution. And I started thinking, well, what is my contribution going to be? So that was a moment.
You know, regrettably, we don't have very much time left. So let me just ask you, both of you went to law school, completed, became attorneys, and you know, it's an interesting track. A lot of people become attorneys and they go for the gold, and that's the notion of things. At some point, both of you decided, notwithstanding the fact that you do practice law, that you were going to run for elected office. So in the final statement, as we're looking on this congregation, is that okay, y'all, the congregation? Okay. As we look on these gathered ones, final word of wisdom, knowledge, whatever it might be, is in your own words to this group.
First of all, we definitely need all kinds of talents. We need clergy who can help people understand Scripture, but also understand what Scripture requires, right? We need lawyers. And it's okay for you to make some money.
Are you sure we need lawyers?
Well,
Yeah.
a few of them. But we need lawyers. Honestly, we need some Thurgood Marshall type lawyers. We need some Bobby Champion type lawyers. But it's nothing wrong with you making money as a lawyer. I don't want anyone to get the impression that making a good living as a lawyer is bad. But if you're there, lawyer, Jerry was doing really well. Do y'all know Jerry? Yeah. Judge Blackwell, Federal District Court Judge Blackwell, who did the opening and closing statement in the Floyd case. Jerry was making a very good living, and I used to see Jerry all the time because I was generally suing his clients. I was suing Comcast, I was suing Lumen, I was suing ExxonMobil, and I was suing 3M, and he represented them all. And I'm not trying to close those companies down. I'm trying to make them obey the law. And he would represent them. He always was very well-mannered. And we'd either try the case or we'd settle the case. But what we wouldn't do was waste a lot of time as he was billing his client $1,000 an hour just to churn the file. You follow what I'm saying? And so I would say, whatever endeavor you do, we need medical people, y'all. I mean, I heard the brother talking about medical disability. We've got to have that. Banker-wise, absolutely. But we need bankers like David McGee. I mean, I love that conversation y'all had about credit score. And I just want to say this, if you'll allow me, then I'll be quiet. There's a lot of bills that you pay on time that are not factored into your credit score. If a credit score is a measure of your reliability to pay your bills on time, well, you pay the cell phone on time, you pay your utility bills on time. They don't build your credit score. Only debt is what's building your credit score. What if we changed the law and said everything which tends to show that you're a reliable risk for a loan should be factored in? There's things we can do about this credit score. I love what the brother said about, hey, instead of keeping it 100, let's keep it 700. That sounds great. But many of you are far more credit worthy than that score shows because you pay a lot of bills on time. You have a thin file because to get credit, you got to have credit. And that's kind of a chicken egg problem. So the thing is, I want to say in terms of our what we do, where we go from here, is that nobody can do everything, but every one of us can do something. And figure out what you can do and do it. Terry, building strong relationships between dads and daughters and fathers and sons. Brother, bless you, and may God bless you for that. Rebuilding the parental bond, very important. I mean, there's so many of you doing awesome things, and I'm afraid to start calling you out because I'm going to miss somebody. But my point is, we just all got to be an army of progress for the community, and never sit down and say, and if you're tired, take a break. We don't need you to burn out, but then get back in. That's all I got to say about it.
So I'll make it quick because I know that there's a time element. The first thing that I would say, never let your current circumstances dictate your future. You know, so if you really think about it, don't let where you are right now create paralysis so that you don't strive to be better. The second thing that I'll say is that we all can live up to our God-given potential. And what's extraordinary about even this gathering here is a well-known a phrase that I heard. It says, before anyone had an opinion of me, God had a plan for me. And the significance of that is because I cannot tell you that I intentionally maneuver through the terrain to arrive where I am right now today. I can't take credit for it. I can't say that I always envision my future to be elected. In fact, I often told Keith that I would never run for office.
That's really true.
And so the other thing is never say never. And when you think about your life, you know, we often in the church says, you know, God has the whole world in his hands. But it's important for you to put your hand in and say, I want to make sure that my future is bright and that I'm living up to my potential. As I started saying that I cannot take credit for where I am because I never thought that one day I would be meeting the President of the United States. In fact, I wanted to be a lawyer who practiced entertainment law because I believe that artists were always getting gypped out of money over and over again, and that's why they always ended up poor. It is through that experience where I learned that I need to do criminal defense law too because they were always getting in trouble. But it gave me an opportunity to talk about the decisions that they were making. And the other thing that I'll say is never ever underestimate the power of a smile. You know, because I can think of growing up and Sonny Bono, for an example, would drive up and down Plymouth in that white Mercedes-Benz. But you know what? He always stopped to say, I believe in you. Don't be like me. You can do great things. A smile encourages someone else. It can also wreak confidence that you have in someone else. And don't look across the last thing I'll say, don't look across the fence and say, oh, I want to be like him or her or Mike or LeBron. How about that you want to live up to your God-given potential because what you have the ability to do may be just as important. And so just remember that we are all tied together by our human spirit. And it's going to be important for all of us to link up together in order to move us forward. No one is greater than the other. Because the pastors appreciate this. Psalms 139 says we are fearfully and wonderfully made. I'll get your offering later on, so just I get that. That we are fearfully and wonderfully made, and we need to stand on that. So thank you so very much.
Let me just, before you even applaud, let me just say this. We started out by saying who these gentlemen are and what they've accomplished, but they are you. Let that be the takeaway. We all begin, and then we move forward. They are you. They've accomplished great and mighty things, and so can you. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you.
Changing the narrative. And it's not only my experience, but I know that over the years that I've reported, there's been a sense that sometimes our people are not welcome in all of our parks. And that's something that's serious, it's real. And I believe that you and leaders like Kim and other people in the public arena are intentional in shifting that dynamic, creating new narratives so that we feel like we are owners and we are the object and the opportunity and responsible for this message of inclusivity and opportunity that parks mean. So with that, Al Bangoura, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That was really powerful. And forgive me too for, I think I'm blaming Yvette for my emotion because she told me that story and it kind of brought back my childhood. So I'm blaming her for that, but very, very proud of her. Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to try to be a talking head too long here. I think there's so many things that the park system is doing and working on. One of the things, and I'm going to shift a little bit because I had some kind of things I want to talk about, which I will share, particularly around near north and north side that are very important. But Al, thank you for the introduction. And this is the park system. It is an incredible, incredible jewel and asset to the city of Minneapolis. And I think, and to our residents, and I truly believe this, that this park system is the heartbeat, is the fabric of the community. Not only do we have 7,000 acres, we have 47 rec centers, and I can go into all the amenities that we have within our park system. It's such an unusual thing. When you go into other park systems, you might have like these large regional centers where there's one center in a particular neighborhood, but we have these smaller, small neighborhood centers, kind of medium-sized, larger ones that are all throughout our park system. One of the reasons we're one of the best park systems in the world, I think, and not only in the country, is because of residents, because of all of you, because of your support for the park system. When you look at the top 5 park systems in the country, of the top 100 park systems, Minneapolis residents pay more to our park system in support of it than probably 95 of those. We're in the top 5 because of their commitment to such a jewel of a system that it is. It is also independent, semi-autonomous, which means that the board is elected by the people. And that's really unique, right? So the people own the park system. And I tell a really quick story. I was at North Commons. Kale Severson was the past commissioner, was sitting in the really cool teen room that kind of Yvette and the team kind of designed there. And I walked in, and Kale, these young men were sitting in the room, and they were kind of joking. And walked in. Kale looked at me and he goes, "You see this guy over here, the superintendent?" And then the kids go, "Yeah." He goes, "I'm his boss." And I go, "Okay." So Kale kind of threw out as a joke, and I said, "All right, Kale." And I said, "Hey, I got a civic lesson for you young people. Do you know who his boss is?" And I said, "You." So they started laughing. They ran out of the room, because they're just cracking up, like realizing we work for the people. We are public servants. I'm a public servant, plain and simple. My work is for the people. And I responded, the commissioners serve and are responsible for the governance of this park system, and I report to them, but they report to the people. And so the people come first in this organization. And the really one unique fact that I would say too, and it's a $156 million operation to run this incredible jewel of a park system. But in a really cool fact, it's the 5th largest bureaucracy. Like if you think about it, it's Minneapolis, St. Paul, Rochester, Duluth, Minneapolis Park and Recreation. That's who we are as a park system and what the importance is to the city of Minneapolis. And I do believe deeply, deeply, deeply the impact that we can make in the lives of our community is so important, and my passion for that is committed, and I'm committed to that. During COVID, it was a very plain example. If I said to everybody on this call or anybody that's listening, what was the one place you could go during COVID that was open and free and you could do whatever just to be present and be in space? It was the park system. It was. I mean, everything else was closed. But what people and their appreciation for at that moment when you walked out, you start to go to these little parklets and spaces, and maybe you haven't experienced certain places in the city. People were out in huge numbers in our park systems. And the uniqueness of being a park system the way we are, I had the authority because of the independence to shut down 21 miles of parkways. So people and residents could spend and go out during COVID and be in those spaces and just be present and just be healthy. And it's a place of activation. It's a place where people can express their First Amendment rights. It's a place where people can play sports, just sit and watch birds, and just take in the air and be present out in nature. And it's so important. So the health and wellness and who we are as a city, I believe deeply is connected by parks. So I wanted to share that. I also want to share too is that one of the really big things, I know that didn't get a lot of press, my commitment to youth, the first thing in the past board when I came in here was about our youth. How are we going to impact the lives of our youth? And I was very excited about that because I understood what that message was. And I won't get into it because I want to share a few more things and not take too much time. But what I'm really proud to also say is that working with the mayor, when I came in here, it took 3 years, we were able to get $2.6 million committed to youth in perpetuity through our general fund and our tax levy for the youth of Minneapolis. $2.6 million forever committed to the youth of Minneapolis. That was just the beginning. There was more that we invested in youth. That $2.6 million hired all of these folks that are working within our rec centers, that are doing the incredible work that they're doing to provide services that are free to youth in Minneapolis. So the lever that was pulled by the city, working with the city, and then my efforts to this was really to commit to the youth, to say to the youth of Minneapolis, we are committed to you. It's not about just injecting money every once in a while and fund it when something, a crisis happens. Then we all of a sudden, well, we got to save, we got to put money in for these kids and our youth and get them engaged. Then it becomes more of an intervention and not a prevention. The beauty of the park system was that, and it took a little bit of time, but we worked with the city and the mayor, that if you invest in this vision that we're bringing forward, this will be in perpetuity for our young people, and it will impact their lives, as it did for me, and as I know Yvette just spoke. It's so important. Part of that money, which is, I'm going to start to share some information, was in the development of these Spark Studios that we have throughout our system. And if you know anything about the Spark Studios, and I would please encourage you to go to our website, the Spark Studios is a place where it's completely transforming the inside of a building in a particular space that is based and rooted in technology, but that's not why we don't call it tech labs. We call it Spark Studios because we want to spark the imagination of young people. We want to see where it can take them. So we did the first one at Powderhorn. We redid the Powderhorn one. It's an old warming room. And I started way back when I was working at Powderhorn for 6 years. But we remodeled that warming room. It's an incredible state-of-the-art recording studio. It is a place where young people can go and do documentary work, and they can do STEAM. They do flying drones. They create objects through the 3D printers. I mean, it's amazing. That's one. Second one is over now at Harrison, which is in North Minneapolis. It's a wonderful place. We had a chance to visit it. It's amazing. So imagine the most high-end technology you can think of is in that space. Everything from the best Apple computer screens to they have a recording studio there too. They have everything from STEAM. They do esports. They do design graphic work. They create and build things. It's an amazing space. The third one we just opened up is at Whittier. We just opened it up 2 days ago, in fact. That was the third one. We have 3 more coming. There's going to be a fourth one that's going to be at Luxton. The fifth one's going to be over at Phillips Community Center. And the sixth one is going to be over at Graco Park, our new B3, completely LEED certified building that's going to be across the river. It's amazing. I encourage people to go to our website because I can talk about it for hours about how amazing these spaces are. But when we talk about a youth walking into a building and meeting them where they are, it's about where they are now and how we can reach them. It's not just about athletics, which is incredibly important. It's not just about our nature-based program, which is very important. But it's about when a child walks into a space, they have something to do immediately when they walk into that building. And that child says, what do you want to do today? Well, I want to do animation. Well, let's do animation. I want to do something on a micro. I want to do a business. I want to build stuff and create space and create a business. Well, let's do that. I want to work with design. I want to look at architecture. We can do that. So those spaces are what I'm bringing and what we're bringing in recreation is rethinking recreation and reimagining it to meet youth where they are today, to compete for their time, right? And so young people, when I say to them, what do you want and what inspires you? Of course, it's athletics. We do an amazing job in athletics. But there's a lot of youth that go, I want to learn how to do music. I want to learn how to do work and do TikTok. I want to play esports. Esports is a $1 billion industry. There's kids getting scholarships at school for that. So there's so much stuff that we're trying to do, and that's just one example. The one other one I would give also is our Teen Teamworks program. We're the largest employer of youth in Minneapolis. And if you look at the people that are these youth that are in the Teen Teamworks program, they look like me. You know, they're an incredibly diverse group of young people across the spectrum. And we moved them out of the recreation space. And I said, you know what, we got to really think about the future of these young people. So we took them from underneath the wing of the recreation. We put them into environmental stewardship. The reason we did that is we wanted to create an understanding around environmental opportunities and environmental jobs and green jobs for our young people. And who better do that than the park board? So we talk about water mitigation, we talk about ecology, arborists, right? Air quality, we talk about EV, electric grid systems, we talk about all these things. These young people now are out in our parks and they're getting the experience around what we call green jobs. And we're stair-stepping them at the age of 14 to give them these sort of like, almost like certifications, like pass-throughs. It's the same thing we do at Spark Studios, right? We educate them, teach them about animation. We keep working with them until they become experts, and then we move them on to internships or jobs. Same thing within the environmental stewardship area. A lot of these young people then go on to college, and they go into college around environmental or climate resiliency type jobs. And that's the future, right? And so we're doing this for our young people. We just got a grant, and I'm thankful for Senator Fatah and Representative Hassan in supporting a $750,000 for the next 2 years to be spent out to 2027. That's going to have more youth that we now can employ. We're working really strongly in the Cedar Riverside area with our Somali community. But now we're going to be giving more youth opportunities, hiring more youth, giving them better pay, more youth working for us, and more hours. So I will say to you that we just imagine these young people working within the system, putting not only money in their pocket, but also teaching them to grow in this kind of youth environment around environmental work. So I wanted to share that real quickly with you and say, you know, we're working really hard, and there's many other things in the park system. So, and then real quickly, I'm not sure what time I have, but I want to also share with you things that are happening in the near north, the north area. So one of the really big ones, of course, North Commons, right? One of the most amazing, Yvette smiling because she's going to be the leader of this historic, fundamentally transformative rec center at North Commons, the largest investment in the history of the park system at North Commons that the park system is investing in. It's 55,000 square foot of building. It's a $35 million project. It was adopted by the board in October. And if you go to our website again and you click on our website, you can see, I think it's a 159-page document, but it really has an incredible background of what this facility will be in the next several years that we start to build this. Right now, we are working, and I know Sean is here, we're incredibly grateful for the Parks Foundation and the work that they're doing. They've secured already $10 million, and they're working with us as a partner to raise more dollars, of course, to complete this project. We are asking with our delegations, the number one priority that we've presented in our bonding to the state to support this project. We are, it's going to be an amazing place. It has 3 field houses. We're keeping the existing gym. We're building around the current facility that's there. It's going to take several years to build, but it's going to be a transformative, incredible space for our young people. I think it's a 58,000 square foot building, not 55. And we'll start construction. Design will start in 2024. Construction will be pretty much in 25 and 26. We did receive funding from Representative Omar in earmark funding for $2 million. The city through the ARPA funding for about $3 million, which is very exciting. Senator Champion, back when we received bonding, was about 5.1. So we've secured around, and then the park board, of course, putting money in. We're around probably about 12 million so far secured. The 10 million from the foundation also raising more funds philanthropically to help us to raise more money. Also, the foundation's putting $1 billion towards community programming and gifts and pledges. That's being a part of this. So it's very, very exciting. And I can go on for hours of this project, but what a fundamental, incredible place this will be to transform the lives of our young people, not only economic opportunities that we're going to be giving for them, for our community, but also young people that are going to be in this space. Our communities say, we don't have to go out to the suburbs to experience something like we're going to be experiencing in our backyard. It's going to be in our community, and people will come to us, and we can be proud and advocate for that space. And that's going to be incredible. And these field houses, not just about sports, it's going to be about community activities, it's going to be about celebrations. It's going to be a place that's going to be a gathering spot for our community. And we're going to be also redesigning the pool. So all of this is on our website. Please, please, if you have a moment, take a look at it. It is so incredibly important. I will give another one major one, Upper Harbor, right across the road. It's going to be an incredible site. So the park board, on Wednesday, I think it was last Wednesday, they have conveyed now the 12.5 acres of parkland to the park board. So we have now signed that. The park board now is going to be redeveloping, and the work is really being done on that from that space. So that conveyance concluded literally 7 years of planning with the park and private development in coordination, of course, with a number of agreements. And so we're working on that right now. And I cannot say thank enough to the NWMO and the work that they're doing with us around this whole stormwater kind of relationship we're having to see the park board, NWMO. It's going to be an incredible ecology, water mitigation kind of work that's being done in that space. It's going to be just amazing. It's $11 million has already been awarded for the first phase of the work. So we are now been doing the work on this project. It's going to be a beautiful park that's going to connect, of course, again, in the north side. It's going to be the space where we're going to have an amazing, amazing place. And so we're very excited about that the park board is working on the park itself. And you will see that work continuing. And again, if you go to our website, you will see the work that's being done there at Upper Harbor. And then there's a few more things that I want to share with you. These are just projects that are happening right now. We are now looking at Twin Lake Shoreline restoration, which is going to be some work. Cliff Swenson from our department is working on that, on design development. North Commons, of course, phase 1 project and improvements. That's beginning. Sumner Field, we're doing basketball court improvements at Sumner Field. Upper Harbor, of course, a new regional park that's being developed. We are working on the 26th overlook. So, I mean, this is really amazing. Think about it. 94 cut off north side from the river. We know this. Development happened, and that's what happened to the north side. And so the park board is working hard, of course, even with the foundation on the 26th overlook that connects, if you go from the 26th all the way to Theodore Worth, to connect to the overlook, which now is on the Mississippi. We are now going to be connecting a trail from the 26th overlook over to Ole Olson Park, which now will connect all the way to the Grand Rounds. So you can literally go from North Minneapolis, connect to the 26th overlook, get on that trail that connects along the river to Ole Olson. You'll go past Park Board headquarters, all the way to Waterworks, and you can go all the way to Minnehaha Falls. I mean, you're connected out to the Ground Rounds, which is an amazing thing the Park Board is doing, working with our partners. So very, very exciting project that's happening. And that's called the Ole Olson, the Overlook and Ole Olson Park Trail Connection. That's also on the website. Take a look at that. Willard Park improvements. We're looking at right now pre-planning for Willard Park. Jordan Park improvements is continuing at this point, and that's construction to be completed in 2024 and the pool opening in 2024 at Jordan Park. Really exciting. Victory Park improvements, and that's that splash pad. They just had a conversation about it yesterday. That's we're working towards that, and that work, construction slated for the spring of 2024. Theodore Worth Regional Park wayfinding is being done right now. That's in design and development. Bethune Park Phase 1 improvements. So that is happening. That's field improvements at Bethune. Farwell Park playground improvements is also continuing at this point. That'll be completed. I think it's being completed this year. It should be. Hall Park, which is in construction. Construction is going to be completed this year, so it should be done at this point. I think we're in the improvements for the playgrounds and also the bike skills area. And the last one I will also say is surface and trail planning implementation across the north side. So that's also being done at this moment. So I've rattled off a lot of stuff. My apologies for just rolling on this stuff. There's so much to share. And I wanted to share as much as I could within a short amount of time for you all to say that we are committed as a park system in our investments. And, you know, we have a lot of work that we have to do, our commitment to our communities, to our youth. We're very, very excited about that. And I'm always available for a conversation. Send me emails, any questions. We can get anything you need back to you on a lot of this work. But if you do go to our website, you will find all this information in there, and it's a really good read, and it's amazing work that's being done. So thank you for your time. I'm sorry I kind of ran through as much as I could, but I appreciate your time letting me do that. So thank you.
Thank you. What a great presentation. We have time for some questions, I think. And you can either raise a hand. I think Adam, is your hand up? Or is that an applause?
I'm applauding the efforts. Yes, really,
Okay,
really exciting stuff.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question now.
Go ahead,
Yes, sir.
Sean.
You
You're
know,
nice to me, Sean.
yeah. Oh, without question. You know, I think one of the things that we have a challenge with as the park system, the city of Minneapolis was really designed around the park system with forefathers who were involved in doing that.
Yeah.
And you know, we've got a situation where we're approximately about every person lives in Minneapolis about a 10-minute walk away from a green space.
Yes.
And we have over is it 180 or 185 parks in our system.
Mm-hmm.
I think one of the challenges we face is that we're in such close proximity to green spaces, to parks, that we may even overlook them.
Yeah.
And you don't get a chance to really leverage the value and the experience of a park and how it can help you develop as a person, help you with your physical health and mental health, unless you engage with that green space, either yourself, or your children, or your friends with you.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, for some people, it's about how do we help people rediscover the parks?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And maybe you can talk a little bit about that, because I think we take it for granted to a degree.
Yeah, a lot of it, and that's a great question, Sean. I think about this all the time. So we do a lot of different things. We have these smaller parks sometimes in our park system, and Yvette can testify to this. And what we try to do is we try to activate those spaces, and we do them through pop-up parks. We do them through different activities that we can connect. And pop-up parks is, if you can imagine, a vehicle with a trailer behind it and drives to a particular space, and they do activation in that space that that maybe people are not necessarily connected to or aware of. I think one of the things that I'm trying to do, and we're trying to do as a park system, is really spend more time, like in these kind of conversations, and talk to people about this wonderful park system and the opportunities and spaces that are available to you. I think we have really wonderful people that work within 47 of our rec centers, 47 supervisors, like Yvette, that works in these spaces. And it really is sort of a one-on-one connection. And because you can put things on emails, or you can do it on Instagram, you can do things through TikTok, whatever it might be, YouTube, all these things. But a lot of times people are not necessarily searching for that. They don't really necessarily know that. So I really truly believe in personal connections, and I really truly believe in ways that we can make that that connection personally. The stories that you'll hear from a lot of our staff, as even I talked about today, and as Yvette talked about, it's how you kind of have those moments where you meet someone that is connected to this incredible park system. And that's like all of you that are on this call, right? You have your experience. And so how do you advocate and talk to other residents and talk to our youth and say, hey, did you know, right? How many didn't really know about the Spark Studios, right? As we're building them, maybe I'm just conveying it for the first time here. So then you start to go out and you start to say, well, let me now talk to you and tell you about this opportunity that is in your community that you might not know about. I was talking to, remember we talked about the faith leaders when we were at North Commons, I think it was, in fact. I think it was at, we were sitting there, and Tom was with me, and we popped up a video in that meeting, but it was about North Commons. And I remember all of these amazing leaders in the community had no idea about the things we were doing within the park system. And I was kind of shocked. And they didn't know. And so there we were sharing it, and they were like, this is incredible. We didn't know this. And so I think a lot of it is really kind of getting out there and just really making those connections for me to be more present to, and to share the wonderful opportunities that we have in the park system. TPL is really interesting too, because TPL, we have less than a 10-minute walk shed, right? So we're one of the top 3 in the country we've been number one for a long time, where people can actually step outside the door within 10 minutes to get to these wonderful spaces. But I really do believe it's going to be just more of these communications, talking, engaging community, and sharing this information so they know what's outside their door and how they can connect to it.
Got time for one more question, but Superintendent, I just want to thank you. This has been a wonderful, wonderful presentation for you and your team, Sean, Yvette. So thank you. Is there another question? Princess?
Yeah, I had a question. Thank you for all of I took so many notes. I'm excited about it. I'll be on the website.
Yeah.
Working with Appetite for Change and just traveling to other states. And Sean, when you talked about engagement, I'm wondering, are there any ideas in the makings for us to use agriculture or urban farming as a way to re-spark that engagement around park space? Thank you.
Yeah, it's a good point. If you actually go to our website, we do have urban gardens throughout our parks. I'm sure you know that we engage community around this, and we do have, I can't remember how many they are now, so I do apologize. I probably could put up quickly, but we do have urban farming and urban agriculture at several park locations throughout the city, which engages community that they sign up for it. They then are able to have a plot in very specific places around our community within our parks, and that's where they grow vegetables and they take care of those particular gardens. And it really is a wonderful program that is community-based, that has designated spaces for people to go out and garden and do agriculture and raise food, for their community, for themselves. I know many actually grow those vegetables and things, and they actually then share that, and they then give it to food shelves, and then they do community dinners and amazing work. I used to work at youth farmers market at Powderhorn, where they had their plot up there on the hill when I was first there. So we have multiple sites that we have already now that we're doing urban farming and gardening within our park system. The other one, which is really, really amazing, at JD Rivers. If you go there and you see the youth farm project that's there, that they grow vegetables and they have a farm project, I wish I could show you it. JD Rivers, if you go to that space, our young people are out there growing vegetables, growing, spinach, and I mean, everything you can imagine. They're growing it there. They're selling it there. Their hands are in the dirt. There's a whole new concept design for that particular space, which will become almost like an education center around agriculture and farming and growing vegetables. And I could spend some time. I promise you, I will send you the information on that. It is an incredible. We need advocates to talk about what this space is going to be. But yes, we do have spaces and places for that, and we are engaging community in agriculture and growing. And the JD Rivers location through our environmental stewardship team is doing incredible work around that particular space where these young people are farming, and it's beautiful. And so, anyways, yes, that'll. And I want to share more with you. I'm just kind of tip the iceberg a bit, but yeah, thank you for that question, and we are really engaged in that. So,
all right, thank you.